Hey, so this is a softball stadium. We're working on a university campus. It's a new stadium for softball. And the language of architecture on the university campus is very classical and sort of traditional. There's a lot of Doric columns and pediments and arches and all that kind of things on the campus. And the university wants to sort of stay within that language with its new softball stadium. So this drawing here, if you look at it, this is just a printout of what we call a Revit model. It's a computer-generated three-dimensional model of the softball stadium. This is the floor plan here. So what I'm going to try to do is, I did some earlier sketches to just get the overall form and shape of the stadium. So now we're going to try to look at sort of how to bring this into a little closer language to the rest of the campus. And we sort of have this low arch in here, and a person's maybe about that big. So I think what we'd like to try to do is maybe get that arch up a little taller, like that. And then there's these are columns over on the side here, so we're going to try to, let me get a pen that draws a little better. So we're going to start to try to kind of bring some of these lines together in the architecture. Base on here. And then maybe we can pull this arch up a little bit to get a little more headroom. If you're kind of a six foot tall person, you're sort of like there. And this is a space for gatherings of the university behind this window. So it'd be kind of nice to have sort of a tall kind of window there in that space for receptions and that kind of thing. And then the press box is beyond that. And this thing sort of cuts back in like that. And you can see that jog in the plan there. Actually, that's the basement plan, but this is the plan where you come in and sort of jogs back. So there's kind of these two sort of elements on either side. We start to play with kind of the pitch. I don't really like that steep pitch. I think I want to kind of go a little more shallow with the pitch of the roof. You know, it needs kind of a top. I don't know, there's a little element up there. So we start to just get the overall kind of rough feeling for the form of the thing. And the proportions. There's a window there. I don't know about the lintels there, whether they're going to be precast or brick. You need to start to pick up the kind of the metal roof. And again, this is just a sort of a way to shape the thing. And the column, we've got these columns over here. I think the column wants to come down on sort of maybe a pilaster or something there. And we could create these sort of niches kind of here in the wall where they could put up kind of a poster, you know, of a softball player in a field, you know, something like that. So maybe these are sort of colorful areas that are backlit for a poster. And maybe the cornice gets a little deeper. I want to leave a little more space between the top of the arch and that. I've been thinking about whether the arch wants to sort of form this band or whether it wants to die at the top of the column there. But anyway, you start to see a little bit the proportions. And I like to throw a little color on it. It helps you kind of visualize, you know, what might be precast and what might be brick. You know, so just put a little color in. You start to see this thing kind of take shape. Maybe these brick niches here are the brick. Then it returns. Actually, there would not be a line right there. And then the precast maybe is doing something like that. But I like to do kind of the rough sketch to just get the overall proportions of the thing before we get any more detail in the working drawings. And sort of, you can see how it starts to take shape here. And then I can throw a little bit shadow in to sort of, you know your window is going to be kind of dark. You know, a little more shadow there. Yeah, you got your steps coming up and the people there. And then grade, and it sort of slopes up this way. So there's grade there. And then you get this kind of rhythm of these columns that are at the back of the stands and then the roof. So then I kind of back away from it and look at it a little bit. It's going to have a metal roof, and that gives it a little bit of texture and scale. And that's a color, and then these things start to stand out, sort of elements, and be a shadow line right there, because that's kind of pieces sticking out. As opposed to maybe a little bit of shadow there. So you see how this thing starts to take shape. You know, I like, you know, some of these things, the classical order, they sort of have this kind of banding, so everything has kind of a base, a middle, and a top. And you'll find that classical buildings really have a nice, well-developed kind of proportion to some of that stuff. I do the sketches kind of quick, you know, so it's sort of a way to kind of study just the overall proportions. I don't like these windows are too skinny. So, you know, they need to be either one big window maybe with mullions. Just allows you to play. And I'll draw many, many sketches over top of this as I'm going along, but you start to see how the proportions of things kind of take shape. You know, we do a little precast detail there, and a top, a precast top, and then that elevation of those top pieces kind of runs around the stadium. And then again, your base element here, and there's a lot of grade. This university is up in the mountains. There's a lot of change in elevation. I'll go a little steeper, gentler sloped roof. Then you've got your steel that comes up and forms the canopy. The stadium, of course, on the other side, the ball field and over this, so the students will come up sort of through this arch, and then the stadium will be there in front of them with home plate kind of right behind the stadium. I kind of jump around on it. There's that scale of the roof. I don't know what the material on the roof is, but I want a little lower slope. I don't want the roof to be the dominant element of the thing. It needs to be sort of in proportion. Again, I think it's too tight right there, so I'll probably play with the dimensions of that arch a little bit. You know, the shading of it. And then, you know, the roof is probably, it's going to be metal of some sort, so it'll have a little bit of shape to it. Just throw enough sky and sort of trees to give the thing sort of a sense of scale, and it kind of brings it to life a little bit, and then you can kind of really kind of put yourself there and sort of feel some of the proportions and all of it, you know. And then I like to kind of heavy up the base so the thing feels like it's kind of sitting on And these are planting beds, so there'd be some kind of planting pieces on either side, perhaps some flowers, and then down here, there'd be some trees and whatnot, sort of over that bed. The landscape kind of comes into it like that. Throw a little bit of. Oops, too bright. Some green, so it just gives it a sense of space. So anyway, here we go. And then we start to kind of feel the proportions of it a little bit. The windows need, I think we need some mullions or something to break up the scale of those. Maybe a square there. Starting to take shape, right? Maybe come across here with some mullions. There we go. See, the president of the university will be having his little function back there, and see the kids coming up to the ball game. The athletes will be down here. Maybe create an arch opening down there for the athletes to enter. But again, this is a very preliminary sketch. This thing will get developed as we go forward. Maybe there's some windows down on the lower level. Although those are the locker rooms, so they'll probably be high windows just to bring some kind of natural light into the locker areas below. And there you go.